Let's slide right in.
All right. So my name is Dr. David Wolf. I am an assistant professor of elementary inclusive education here at MSUM. My degrees, I have a bachelor's of science in elementary education. I have a master's of education. I have a education specialist in educational leadership. I have a certificate in gifted and talented instruction and a doctorate of education in educational leadership.
All right, I'm Donita Gallo. I have a Bachelor of Science in Child Development from North Dakota State University. I have a Master's in Early Childhood Education from the University of North Dakota. And I have a PhD in Teacher Education, also from University of North Dakota.
Okay, hello. Well, I am Shirley Johnson, and I can proudly say I am starting my 40th year in education this year. I received my undergraduate degree here at MSUM in special education, and then I went on and got my graduate degree here at MSUM, also in special education, and then I obtained my PhD at the age, I started at 45, so it's like that's what teachers do. We never stop learning, and I got my PhD at the University of North Dakota in teacher education. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I'm Lacey Hoppy. I'm the director of the MSUM Early Education Center. I have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction and a bachelor's degree in early childhood education. I also have my Minnesota teaching license in early childhood to birth to grade 3, and then a principal license.
My name is Dr. Erin Gillette. I am a faculty member here at Minnesota State University, Moorhead in early childhood education. I earned my bachelor's degree in elementary education and Spanish from Concordia College here in Moorhead, and my master's degree in curriculum and instruction from here, Minnesota State University, Moorhead, and my PhD in teacher education with a focus on early literacy from the University of North Dakota.
Question 1. In one sentence, what would you say is your biggest issue with today's school system?
Oh, the biggest issue in today's school system, I would probably have to say, is the level of respect being shown and received between all the stakeholders, between teachers, administration, families, the students, and then the community at large.
That is so hard to narrow down to one sentence. So I'm going to zero in on my passion about literacy and teaching children to read in a way that's grounded in the science. So my biggest issue with the school system across the United States at large is that there are still many, many school districts across all the states that are not using evidence-based instruction to teach children how to read.
I believe that probably just the recognition of the what's needed for it, and that that early childhood is important and that it should be funded, those kinds of things. It's just a really big problem.
My biggest issue is I believe as a teacher educator that we need to spend a lot of time in schools. So I do. I'm almost in schools every week, and we need to have that connection. And when I watch teachers, administrators, families, I believe the biggest issue right now is teacher shortage. And not teacher shortage, why is there a teacher shortage? Teachers, it's harder to recruit new teachers. Why are not individuals wanting to be teachers? That's a problem, because teaching is the most wonderful profession. And why aren't they staying in the profession? They leave within 5 years, and we have awesome teachers out there that are not teaching right now. And why? Why is this happening in our society, in this wonderful society where education is the key? And I believe that's our biggest problem right now. We need to investigate why.
It is too focused on academics.
Perfect. Thank you. Question 2. If you had the chance, what is one thing you would change about the system today?
Gosh, I have to think about this so much here.
There's so many options.
There is.
There's so many issues.
There are. I guess one thing I would want to change about our system would probably be about how we determine success in schools. I think right now we have such an emphasis on achievement as our one and only way of communicating whether a child is succeeding or not, or whether a school is succeeding or not. And then, of course, on the opposite side of success is failure. And so it's a very dichotomous definition. You're either succeeding or failing, and you have to lie in one of the two buckets. And there's such a much more holistic way of looking at education of a child, as well as measuring what is a school being successful or not. And I think when we just silo and kind of telescope into one little area, I think we miss the boat in really truly describing and describing the whole child's experience, as well as what is that child's experience throughout their time in the K-12s and even higher education systems, and what a success would actually look like. So I would say that is probably one of the biggest things I would want to change, and that demystify and redefine, because I think it's going to be, there's so much more to it than a grade
Yes.
or score.
That is a hard question. I would like to see teachers receive a much higher level of professional respect for the work that they do and the time that they invest. And I think there are plenty of families and districts that do offer that, but there are lots of harsh, judgmental voices coming at teachers from all directions. And it makes it really hard to concentrate on students and their learning when you are feeling constantly attacked. So if I could change that, that's probably what I would change.
It would be that they thought of early childhood as a vital part of the education.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What I would change is we need to look at, we're spending too much time looking at what's wrong with education. We need to, there's a lot of schools that are having lots of success and seeing what's right. We need to use science and research and experts to help us. Like, go to countries that things are working, go to classrooms that things are working, and learn from it. Rather than looking what's wrong, why don't we look for what's right and improve our education with science and experts? We need experts that know what they're doing to keep on improving. We have a wonderful thing going, but why don't we keep it going with science?
Being early childhood, which encompasses kindergarten through third grade, as well as pre-K, I would like to see the schools go back to the principles of early childhood education, which is play-based, that they're not sitting in a desk doing rote work on a piece of paper, but instead they are using their hands, they're exploring, they're manipulating.
All right, question 3. American culture has a primary focus on sports and not academics. Do you think cultural pressures for children to succeed athletically is leading them to be less successful academically?
I think that it definitely has a part to it. So the whole idea of the emphasis of sports is definitely having a hand in this process. And I think part of it is where do a lot of the funding, it's not necessarily the public funding because that's earmarked for very specific things. But when you look at branding, You look at sports, when you brand an institution or a district or a school. It's only at the elementary level where we don't have that athletic brand to it. But sports boosters and things like that, that's a lot of money and a lot of revenue that comes in with a very specific emphasis to enhance that athletic experience. And you see, a band might go to an event on a school bus, and the sports team taking a nice coach bus, because the funds are very different for that, how they got the transportation because of the funding part to it. So I definitely think there's that sports piece. I think sports brings in a lot of that public facing piece to it, and people who want recognition. And in our very social media heavy environment and society right now, having your face at the forefront, you get that when you're in a sports team or sports figure. You don't get that so much when you're in a band, an orchestra, a choir, an art club. Those aren't necessarily celebrated by society. However, like being on that robotics team is, I would say, even more rewarding because of all the different skills that you're building academically, socially, and emotionally than you would just on more of that athletic piece, along with some of that, working with each other and some of those social issues that you have with a sports team. So yeah, I definitely think there's definitely has a hand in this trend that we're seeing.
Not necessarily. I think there are other things that are impacting students' academic success rather than maybe just pressure from having to perform as an athlete. I think that kids just don't get a chance to play and be kids and run around outside. I sound like such a Gen Xer, like we did when we were little. But with the prominence of technology and devices, and also this very strong sense of fear that parents have needing to protect their children, I just don't think, I think little ones don't get to play and learn through play, even outside of school, as much as they did generations ago. So in terms of impacting academic success, it seems like there's such an emphasis on either be involved and perform. So kids are booked up beginning in the early elementary years all the way through middle school and high school with activities that they don't get a lot of downtime, free time. And I think that over time adds to a strong sense of anxiety and maybe some performance issues. And so school just becomes squeezed out. It becomes one thing they have to try to be good at, but it's not the focus. And then I lost the rest of my train of thought.
Maybe for some, I wouldn't say like in general or for all, but I think sometimes the being able to participate in the athletics could lead you to focusing on your academics too. So it could kind of go.
And where do you think that starts? Do you think that starts in early childhood where they put that pressure on them, or do you think that starts like later in life?
It's probably a combination, or it depends on their parents and when the pressure starts, or if they, if the children want to do those things, or if they're feeling pressure from society. Their parents might be feeling the pressure from society just because it's become the norm for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can wear two hats here. I can wear my education hat and I can wear my parent hat. I believe in extracurricular activities, not just sports, theater, arts, anything a child can be in. I think they're very, very, very important. So I think we have to make sure to make that connection with it, that a child in sports is going to be better in school because I have to keep their grades. And so why don't we make them help work it together? My concern is more because the kids in sports are going to be doing okay. my concern is, do all kids have access to some of these extracurricular activities? Do they have access to the arts? Do they have access to the sports? We need to look at all the children and make sure the access is there. Can they take that art class? Can they be in theater? That would be my biggest concern, because I think all those extracurricular, those are the kids that will stay in school and keep their grades, because it is the community, and there's the leadership skills and all the things that they learn with these skills. So I like extracurricular and I like sports, but we need to make that connection, and we need to make sure all kids have access.
Yes, absolutely. And that starts at a very young age. You have 3, 4, 5-year-olds who are in 1 or 2 activities to find out where they're good, and because then they'll get that university scholarship, and we're burning them out because their day is constantly booked.
Question 4. Do you think having children sit all day is causing them not to be able to perform as well as they are able?
Yes. Kids should not be sitting so long. And, I think I think developmentally we need to remind ourselves that how we learn as the adult isn't how we need to set up our classrooms for our children. Because as adults, we can sit for longer periods of time without a break, where kids need developmentally shorter amounts of time with very specific instruction, but then they need to do something with it. And I think we forget that because we're so far removed from that age. Personally, we're so far removed because we know what it's like to read a book or sit for a 2-hour movie and not really think so much about it. But we need to remind ourselves how much our students need to be able to play, interact with each other, use language as a tool, have concrete experiences for the students to be constructing meaning, because that's the only way they're going to actually start to have that learning process at the neurological level actually happen. So it's super unfortunate when we see in the elementary, our pre-K and 6 classrooms sitting for long periods of time. It's unfortunate.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Kids need to be able to move and interact with each other, interact with their environment, play indoors, play outdoors. And learning can be playful, but there also should be times of open play. But when you're being expected to sit for extended periods and self-regulate your physical presence, I think that contributes to feelings of anxiousness too.
Oh, it definitely does.
Yes.
Yes.
I think part of what your body needs and your brain needs to be successful is those like brain breaks and getting up and moving around, and so sitting all day is not helping.
Yeah. That's what you focus on in early childhood.
Mhm.
So
I recently read this article and I loved it, and it said there's not a better time than today to be a teacher. And us teachers in the education world, we need to be there for each other. And I love that article. And it said the reason there's no better time is because we know about the science of learning. We know how kids learn. Therefore, we know about the science of teaching. How do kids teach? So teachers now know that kids need to move. They know movement. And, early childhood teachers have known that forever. But high school teachers now know that. College kids are knowing more. They coined the term vertical learning. So if you're in a college, or hopefully a college classroom, but for sure high school, if you're in a classroom, you will see teachers, they're sitting for a while, they're walking, they're in groups. They know kids need to move, and movement is good for emotional, social, physical, all our health. So again, science is what's going to improve education. And I think the science of teaching and the science of learning is really helping us be more effective teachers.
Yeah, it slows down the way they're thinking. They're not getting that blood flow through their body by getting up and walking around. Even if they allowed kids to walk around the room as they were studying phenomes on the board, it still would be activating different parts of their brain.
Amazing. Okay, question 5. Do you think parents having to work 12 plus hours a day is affecting children's ability to learn?
I think it actually, our parents having long shifts as well as having like second and third shifts of the day absolutely impacts students' ability to learn, and has a hand in that process, because when it comes down to it, our parents are the child's first teacher. And so when they don't, when parents are needing to work long shifts or shifts that are opposite of the student's shift or school day, it doesn't allow the parents to have a lot of rich conversations, a lot of rich learning environments that the child and the parent can be interacting with each other as often. And so, it's no fault to the parent. They need to provide for their families. They're doing what they can do for their families, and it's just the work schedule that really is having that impact that we do see in the classrooms. So we want our kids to be able to learn from their families, talk with them at the dinner table, go on long walks and talk about nature and things like that, because they're going to learn so much more there that they can then apply and translate and generalize in our classrooms where we're starting to learn in that academic setting.
Well, I certainly think that can be a factor relating to students learning. If their families have to spend so much time working to make ends meet, or just because of the demands of the job, that there isn't a lot of family time for playing games or talking or reading books, that can impact student learning in the long run if that time isn't there for building those family relationships.
I think it could. I don't know that it's like you could say that's the reason, but it definitely, being part of a family group or having a support is really helpful. So the support maybe doesn't necessarily need to come from a parent, but from a loving individual that cares about the children.
Yeah. When I look at that question, again, I want to ask, absolutely it's affecting, but I want to know, why do parents have to work 12 hours a day? And that's the issue with our kids. It's like, okay, is it single parenting? That's hard. Is it, the social economic problem? That is hard. All those different things that affect our children today, that's what we need to work on. And I know that's not an easy fix, but that's the issue, because kids need their family. They need their siblings, they need family, they need grandparents. We need community, we need relationships. We know relationship help. And so when they're not around their parents, yeah, it does affect them. But why does that parent have to work 12 hours a day? And even, our new teachers, when I watch new teachers, they have 2 jobs to make ends meet. We're even doing that to our teaching profession. So why do people have to work 12 hours a day? To be able to be there for their family financially and provide food and housing for their family is, to me, a bigger issue.
It's definitely upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Parents are a huge motivator for children. Even adolescents, the research shows that while they're pushing against their parents, they really want their parents there when push comes to shove. And I think that parents just aren't there. They're not having family conversation around the dinner table about what was your day like. And so it can come off as not being as invested. And so then why should the kids be invested?
And question 6. Do you think homework is ethical? Do you think it impacts the child's development?
All right. So homework, I think we've missed the boat on the purpose of homework. I think that we've become so pressured at time and trying to get so much in our school day and our school year. We become this fast school approach that we just have so many standards, so much curriculum to fit in that I can only teach so much, and then you have to take the rest of it home to learn on your own. And that's not the way kids need to learn. We need to be able to set up opportunities for us to model in our classrooms, have practice in our classrooms with our assistants. And for me, when we send something home for it to be worked on, it should be work that they've already mastered. So stuff that the students are feeling confident on, that they can actually maybe take home to show their parents, like, this is what we're doing, and I can show you 2 examples of this math problem. But it shouldn't be something that they just learned. They haven't had a lot of practice to bring that recall back into their brain. It shouldn't be something that the parents have to now learn and teach the child, because the content experts are the teachers. And so our students should be in that learning environment with the teacher in order to have that first initial introduction to it, but also the recall quite a few times for that guided practice. And then once that mastery has happened, then we should be like, okay, that's ready to go home for you to practice on your own to keep that long-term memory, but also maybe teach your parents how to do this because you've already mastered it. This would be a great way to show mom and dad or whichever caregiver they live with what they're actually learning in schools. So I think we've just missed the boat completely on homework. And I think we need to really pause and really think about that philosophical approach to why are we doing this? What are the benefits of it, if there are benefits of it, and restructure our procedures around those benefits rather than I just didn't get through it all and they got to practice 30 problems at home. That's another whole conversation too. Do we really need 30 problems to show proficiency, or can we do it in 5? But I can sum it up right there for that.
I think there's a place for homework, but not in elementary school. I think teachers and schools need to be very clear about what is the purpose of homework. I think it should be to practice something that has been taught in the classroom, and maybe an opportunity to start practicing it there, but give some additional expectations for at-home practice. Or if you don't finish something in middle school or high school, to bring it home and finish it and work on it. So I don't know that it's really a question of ethical or not as much as it is what's the purpose and is it serving its intended purpose?
I guess I've never thought about that, but I think if it's the right homework, yes, it would be ethical. There's definitely things that could be unethical, or people could think of assignments or things that would be unethical. And those would have an effect on the children's development, right or wrong, I guess, or for good or bad. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in early childhood, you're not gonna go and give them a bunch of homework because that wouldn't be appropriate practice at all.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But back when I was in early childhood, back when I was in preschool, they would give us homework every day to bring home.
I think I'm allergic to tap water.
It's and that's a good thing that that's changed,
mm-hmm.
And everything like that. So there has been talk of bringing that back into early education systems, especially if the government were to take control. Mm-hmm. What is your thoughts on that?
I think when you're a little 2, 3, 4-year-old, your job is playing and learning in those ways and learning through play. So if the homework was you go home and have dinner and go to bed and or take a bath, you have time to play and go to bed, then yeah, if we're calling that homework, that's fine. If homework is a worksheet or something, an activity that you have to do, that's probably not going to be beneficial for them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I believe, again, I'm going to answer that with, how is that teacher doing homework? Because are they just simply sending it home for busy work? are they sending something home that the child's not able to do? Like if you're talking a child maybe with a language barrier or an individual with a disability, we can't send something home and expect that that's where the teaching is going to occur, the new learning is going to occur. It has to be something that is authentic and fun and involves the family. I believe it's how perhaps we could take our total outcomes of that week and turn it into a packet and send it home to the family and say, okay, this is due on Friday, so it's their time, because we don't know, maybe Wednesday night is their religion night, maybe Thursday night is their sports night. We can't say that is the night that their family can do homework. So it's how, and maybe we can get the feedback from the family and say, how does this work? But make it fun, like, turn it into an activity where what we're learning new would be something authentic at home, measuring, cooking, creating the family meal, all those fun things that we could take what we learned and reading a fun article or reading something that the kids enjoy. So taking that learning outcome, but turning it into something fun that could be a family event, I think would be very beneficial.
Ethical makes it a tough word to think about. But I think it's a very good word, because we do need to think about what is this doing to the child. And again, looking at that K3 age, where those kids are in school all day and then they're doing some sort of activity, and even kindergartners coming home with homework. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying it's not ethical, because there's not really a code of ethics for that age, but I would say it's not good for them. It is definitely impacting their academics, because they're not getting enough sleep. And they're having, if you have 2 to 3 hours of homework, and that's probably, 5th or middle school kind of thing, but they're not getting adequate sleep. And if a parent isn't there to talk them through the homework, to even just to ask questions, the child's not struggling with it, but to just say, well, what are you working on? Tell me about this, because talking about it is a much better learning experience than just writing it down on this sheet of paper.
All right. And you got a bonus question.
Okay.
If you had a key point or a key takeaway that you want everyone to get from this, what would you tell them?
I would say that if you're a pre-service teacher or an in-service teacher, I think we need to remind ourselves that we are the agents of change, and that we can do we have a lot of impact on change in our classrooms, because if I see something's not going right, I need to take a new instructional approach. If I need to differentiate for my students, I can make a change immediately, and that change and that impact can be happening moments in our classroom. So we have to remind ourselves that we are agents of change. We can take a lot of what we know and our expertise and make change for our students directly, but also saying, here's what's going on in my classroom. Here's how we could start making some change within our grade level, our school, and know that ripple effect is going to take time, but change isn't going to happen on its own. It requires individuals, and it requires us teachers to start, and that requires us to talk to each other, share our ideas or any results that we have, so that other people can jump on board if we're seeing success in our classrooms, so that we can make some of these changes.
All right. And is there anything else you want to say?
Go for it.
All right. Thank you so much, David.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the younger grades, it would be going back to what we know children need. They need unstructured time to just be, to play, but to just be. They need teachers who care about them. And yes, we have that, but those teachers have so many students in their class. Then they have a percentage who struggle with their emotions and their behaviors. And then you have children who have a diagnosis of some sort of disability. And you put all that together and you're burning out the teachers, which leads to, in my opinion, more busy work to teach the children because the teacher just doesn't have it left.
All right. Thank you so much, Danita. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Ooh, you put me on the spot. What would I say? I am 100% passionate about education, and I guess my key would be, before we are so critical of the education world, I believe everybody should walk into that world, volunteer, be there, ask a teacher, go into the school, be part of the school, because our communities are only going to be as strong as our schools are. So, rather than being critical of that teacher, ask the teacher, go in that room, volunteer. You can go, you can see what the teachers are doing, you can see their curriculum, you can see the school curriculum. Be a part of the school and care. I think that's what we all should do.
Well, thank you so much, Shirley. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
That their children should go to preschool.
Definitely. Enlist your kids. Sign up your
Enroll.
kids. Enroll your kids. Thank you so much, Lacey.
It's really important for teachers and leaders and parents to understand that it's the school's responsibility to teach a child to read. And that shouldn't fall on the parents to have to fill in the gaps. And we know, based on the science that has been conducted over the last 50 years across multiple disciplines, what is effective for teaching children how to read and what isn't. And I would like to see every school embrace evidence-based practices so that kids learn how to read and have an opportunity to apply literacy throughout their entire lives. If they don't love to read, that makes me a little sad, but my job is not to get you to love it, it's to make sure you can do it. And if you can do it, you're probably more likely to find some pleasure in it.
All right. Thank you so much, Erin. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and keep following me as I continue my journey to improve the school system.